Amateur Radio News and Notes for Friday, July 17th, 2026. I'm Ed Kabik, November 2, Echo Charlie. In the log this week, we've got a contest spotlight for the North American QSO Party, this time on RTTY. Also, the ARRL announces the student coding competition winner. There's another contest spotlight for CQ Worldwide VHF on digital. Also, the World Radiosport Team Championship 2026 results are in. We'll talk about some MVARC Nets on the air, see what's happening with DX, get a solar activity update, talk about upcoming contests, and take a look at interesting online radio content. As always, links to all the reference content can be found in the show notes or at our Substack at mvarc.substack.com. This weekend brings the summer 2026 edition of the North American QSO Party on RTTY. The NAQP starts Saturday, July 18th at 1800 UTC, that's 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and ends on Sunday, July 19th at 5:59 UTC, that's 1:59 a.m. Eastern Time. The stated objective of the NAQP is to work as many North American stations as possible during the contest period. North American stations are defined by the ARRL DXCC list, with the addition of Hawaii. The entry classifications are single operator, with no spotting assistance permitted, and 10 of the 12 hours able to be operated. Single operator assisted, where spotting networks and skimmers may be used, with 10 of the 12 hours able to be operated. And multi-operator 2 transmitter, where spotting assistance is permitted and the entire 12 hours may be worked. A maximum of 100 watts of output power is permitted, with low power, that's 100 watts or less, and QRP for 5 watts or less being permitted. If power is in excess of 100 watts, any submissions will be used as a check log. The exchange is operator name and state, province, or country. So for me in Virginia, it would be Ed, VA. DX stations just send their name. Multipliers are all 50 U.S. states and the District of Columbia, and 12 Canadian provinces and territories, and other North American entities as defined by the ARRL DXCC list. Contacts may be worked once per band, and contacts with an incorrect exchange are removed without penalty. Call sign errors or busted QSOs and other not in logs are removed and are penalized by 1 QSO point deduction. The total score is the number of valid contacts multiplied by the number of multipliers worked for each band. Full rules and details can be found at the link in the show notes, so get on RTTY this weekend and make some QSOs. Good luck. The American Radio Relay League, or ARRL, announced that 16-year-old amateur radio operator Ben KC3 ZPQ of Ellicott City, Maryland, has been named the winner of its 2026 student coding competition. As a result of his win, he will receive a $5,000 prize and was awarded a new MacBook Neo to assist in his future coding endeavors. He designed a mobile application to assist individuals in their preparation for amateur radio license examinations. In addition to his win, ARRL offered him a consulting project of the summer to continue his work, and he will be eligible for a $5,000 scholarship when he enrolls in college after high school. Congratulations to Ben. For more information, visit a link in the show notes. This weekend brings the digital edition of the 2026 CQ Worldwide VHF contest. The contest starts at 1400 UTC Saturday, July 18th, that's 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and ends at 1400 UTC on Sunday, also 10 a.m. Eastern Time. The stated objective of CQ Worldwide VHF is to have, quote, amateurs around the world to contact as many amateurs as possible in the contest period, to promote VHF, to allow VHF operators the opportunity to experience the enhanced propagation available at this time of year, and for interested amateurs to make VHF Maidenhead grid locators for award credits. Bands of operation include the 6-meter and 2-meter bands, and stations may be worked once per band. For the digital edition of the contest, only digital modes, for example, FT8, FT4, MSK144, Q45, etc., may be used. The exchange is the call sign and Maidenhead grid locator. So for me, in Northern Virginia, my exchange would be N2EC FM18. Signal reports are not required and should not be included in the submitted logs. Multipliers are the number of different grid locators worked per band. Rovers may count the same grid locator more than once per band as long as they are in different locations for the subsequent contact. QSO points are 1 point on 50 megahertz and 2 points on 144 megahertz for each contact. Total score is the QSO points multiplied by the number of grid locators worked. Entry categories include single operator at high, up to 1500 watts, low, up to 100 watts, and QRP, up to 5 watts power levels. Hilltopper, which is a single up category for up to 6 hours of continuous operation, up to 100 watts. Rover, which allows for up to 2 operators to travel to more than one grid location, and signs with Rover or /R, and multi-op with 2 or more operators with only 1 signal per band. Repeater and satellite contacts are not permitted. Spotting assistance is allowed so long as it is not used to confirm a QSO or convey information in the exchange. Self-spotting by APRS Rovers is also permitted. Logs must be submitted by July 24th, 2026 to be eligible for awards. For rules and full information, visit CW VHF.com. Good luck. Last weekend brought the 2026 World Radiosport Team Championship, and the competition was heated. The winners this year were the WRTC 2022 Champions team, consisting of VE3DZ and UW7LL, with a total score of 7,460,840 points. In the close second place was the EU team of DJ5MW and DM5EE with 7,369,782 points. And in third place was the EU team of E77DX and DJ4MX with 7,346,885 points. WRTC is a quadrennial contest that many consider to be the Olympics of amateur radio contesting. The competition is a 24-hour trial that runs concurrently with the IARU HF World Championship and attempts to provide as level a playing field as is practicable. Each station used the same antenna and power equipment and was limited to 100 watts of forward power. The close scores highlight how much skill and strategy were involved in this year's contest. Congratulations to all the participants. And now let's talk about some MVARC Nets on the air. We are a 2-meter FM net Tuesdays at 7 p.m. on the repeater. That is immediately followed by our 2-meter digital net on Yaesu System Fusion C4 FM on the same frequency. On the weekends, we've got the MVARC Slow Speed CW Roundtable on Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 a.m. on 3.565 megahertz CW, and the MVARC Cherry Tree Net on Saturday and Sunday at 8:30 a.m. on 3.920 megahertz lower sideband, where we always have a great conversation, and you're always welcome to join us. And now let's see what's happening with DX. There will be a lot of DX on the air this week. Stations on the air include French Polynesia, Ogasawara, Greenland, Luxembourg, Crete, Benin, Sardinia, Cyprus SVA, St. Martin, Ivory Coast, Liechtenstein, Jersey, Panama, Rodriguez Island, South Cook Island, and Azerbaijan. A calendar of DXpeditions can be found at NG3K's announced DX operations list at ng3k.com. And now it's time for a solar activity update as we go to press. The Solar Flux Index, or SFI, was 101, and the estimated sunspot number was 25, with 4 numbered sunspot regions visible from Earth. Over the last week, the SFI has decreased. Solar activity has been at very low levels in the last 24 hours. The geomagnetic field has been at quiet to unsettled levels in the last 24 hours, and the KP index reached 3 yesterday. The solar wind averaged 400 kilometers a second. Solar activity is predicted to be at low levels with a chance of M-class flares today through Sunday. The geomagnetic field is forecast to be at quiet levels today and Sunday, and at quiet to unsettled levels on Saturday. The chance of solar radiation storms at the S1 or greater level is at 1% today through Sunday. R1 to R2 radio blackouts are possible with a predicted probability of 25% today through Sunday. R3 or greater blackouts are unlikely with a 1% chance predicted today through Sunday. It remains a fantastic time for amateurs to get on the air and work the world. Good sources of real-time solar information include spaceweatherlive.com and solarham.com. A good overview of conditions can be found at dx.qsl.net/propagation. To see delay or absorption data and associated radio blackouts, visit the NOAA DRAP page, and to see maximum usable frequency, or MUF, and critical frequency, or FOF2 information from Radiosonde data, visit prop.kc2g.com. And now let's take a look at some upcoming contests. This weekend brings the North American QSO Party on RTTY and the CQ Worldwide VHF Digital Contest we spotlighted earlier. Also on the air this weekend will be the LABRE DX contest, the Russian Radio Team Championship, the Trans-Tasman Low Bands Challenge, the Feldhell Sprint, the IARU Region 1 70 MHz contest, the RSGB International Low Power Contest, the Yoda contest, and the Run for the Bacon QRP contest. As always, the K1USN SSTs, the MSTs, and the CWTs will also be on the air. The full contest calendar with events and exchanges can be found at contestcalendar.com. And now let's wrap things up with some interesting online radio content. As always, the links for everything we're about to mention here are in the show notes and also at our Substack at mvarc.substack.com. Bob W9KNI tells a tale of hunting rare DX in ZD9 Gough Island. Callum M0MCX builds a 3-element direct feed Yagi for 15 meters. Walt K4OGO makes a vertical dipole for 20 meters. Josh KI6NAZ does a QRP single sideband activation for POTA. Jason KM4ACK builds a digipeater using Grey Wolf. Gabe KL1FI builds SATCOM antennas from items in his junk box. Jason KM4ACK shows a presentation from Stephen WA8LMF about APRS over VARA. Mike K8MRD installs a beta version of WinLink for Macs. Sean W9FFF gives a look at some cheap imported CW keys. IMSI Guy talks about RF mixers in a 2-part series. Veritasium gives an explanation of the history and the usage of the Smith chart for impedance matching calculations. Sean W9FFF builds a V-dipole using parts from the hardware store. Mike K8MRD talks about different versions of MeshCore and how to flash them. The broadcast engineer gives us a tour of the iHeartRadio studios in Los Angeles. Rob N1NUG fixes his super antenna beam antenna. Chris KL9A and Dan M6NJ share their preparation for WRTC. Jeff KF0MYB takes a look at the quad RF antenna array to visualize RF. George VK2AOE builds an active loop receive antenna. Mike K8MRD looks at the LDG MC7300 external meter for the ICOM 7300. Craig KM6LYW builds a desktop ham clock for $60. And Walt K4OGO reevaluates the Yaesu FT891. Well, that is it for this week. I've been Ed, November 2, Echo Charlie. Thanks, as always, for joining us. We hope you have a great week ahead. Best 73, and we look forward to seeing you next week.